There were 19 contracts signed in the luxury market. We should see good activity until around Thanksgiving. Contract activity, we see that it is picked up a little bit, especially in Manhattan, up 25%, I think, for the week. Welcome to this week's look at the state of the New York City real estate market, where I take a look at the luxury market, the Manhattan market, and the Brooklyn market. I do it because I want you to be informed. It never hurts when you're a consumer to be informed. Welcome to this week's look at the state of the New York City real estate market. This is for the week of October 16th to the 22nd. We're going to get started right now with the luxury market for last week. There were 19 properties that went into contract. These are properties that were priced at $4 million and above. Actually, 5 of those contracts were for properties that were priced at $10 million and above. There were 13 condos, there were 3 co-ops, and there were 3 townhouses. 9 of those properties were uptown and 10 were downtown. The number 1 contract was apartment 2 ABC at 1016 Fifth Avenue. It was asking $29.5 million. It has been on and off the market since April of 2021, and it started at $37 million. It actually went through 2 brokerage firms before it finally went into contract. This is a 14-room co-op. It has 6 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, an eat-in kitchen, a 1,000-bottle wine cellar, and 2 fireplaces. The living room, library, and formal dining room spans 64 feet overlooking Fifth Avenue. Amenities in the building include doorman and a fitness center. The number 2 contract was a brownstone at 24 West 10th Street. It was asking $22.5 million. It was reduced from $29.5 million when it was listed in April of 2021. It is a 22-foot wide, 6-story house. It has 9,000 square feet. It includes 7 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, 3 powder rooms, and an elevator, plus a landscape garden and a roof deck. The stats last week for the luxury market are as follows. The total weekly asking price sales volume, 185,313,000. Average asking price, 9,753,316. Median asking price, 7,500,000. Average discount from original ask to last asking price, 10%. Average days on market, 585. Okay, that's it for the luxury market. Nice little bounce back. That's 3 more contracts than the previous week, so we're actually picking up a little steam as this fall market continues on. And as I have said previously, the luxury market is a bit of a bellwether for the rest of the market, so this portends well. Any questions, please post those below. Now I'm going to move over and take a look at what happened last week in Manhattan. So in Manhattan last week, we saw a nice little pop in liquidity. We certainly needed that, up almost 21%, 400 properties for the week. We also saw a nice pop for the contracts signed, 186. We're still a little light on that. However, at a little over 22% for the week, we'll take it. Off-market properties also rising, likely a sign of seller fatigue in this market, up 168 for off-market properties, up almost 22%. And if we look at the month view of supply, we see that we're still light on supply overall, 1,587 for the month, down almost 9%. Contracts signed up, not terribly impressively, 682. By the end of October, we should be seeing, historically speaking, probably around a little over 900 contracts for the month. So we're still light, although we are getting a little traction, which is great. So up a little bit, almost 4% for the month. Off market is up 4%, also 655. Again, likely a bit of seller fatigue going on here. If we take a look at this Market pulse, we definitely are seeing we are in buyer's market territory. Not surprising. We did have that very lackluster September. We've bounced off the bottom. We're going to talk more about that at the end of my report, give you my thoughts and my takeaways for both buyers and sellers, best strategies for being successful in this market. But if you take a look at this market pulse chart, you will see that in terms of what is happening, we're definitely in that buyer's market territory. Liquidity pace chart. This is the 30-day moving window. We are starting to see some little signs of life at the end, but we had drifted quite low and we are starting to bounce back. We are seeing a little bit of a tick up in this supply. We are in this low liquidity environment. We are starting to see a little bit of an uptick in contract activity. That's it for the Manhattan market. I'm going to move on now to Brooklyn. Be sure to stick around because I will be giving you my thoughts, my takeaways for sellers and buyers. This is a pretty interesting market, definitely a lot of challenges for both buyers and sellers, and definitely some strategies you ought to be considering will help you be successful. Okay, any questions, please post those below. So let's move on now, talk about Brooklyn. Let's take a look at the 1 week look. Supply 179, down over 20%. Contracts signed up a wee bit for the week, little over 3%, 3.5%, 119. Off market, wow, up almost 52%. 82 properties. Again, I'm pointing to seller fatigue. September was a brutal month. This has been a slugfest for a lot of sellers, and it could well be that a lot of sellers have just decided they do not want to sell in this market. And we can see that from this 1 month look, the supply 811, that is down for the month, little over 3%. Contract signed 465, not even 1% up for the month. And the off-market properties up 24%, 326. Again, likely a sign of seller fatigue. Brooklyn is not seeing the buyers in the market that Manhattan is seeing. Also, buyers are not seeing the properties coming on the market that some of the Manhattan buyers are seeing in their market. So what is it, the chicken and the egg? What's really driving this? Is it that sellers just aren't putting their properties on the market, therefore the buyers are uninspired? Or is it that sellers have had their properties on the market, as you can see from the off-market properties, and the buyers are just not stepping up, and so then the sellers get tired and say, then fine, forget it, I'm not going to sell. If we look at this market pulse chart, we will see, just as with Manhattan, we are in this buyer's market. And if we look at the liquidity pace, we are seeing a bit of a rise. So it does look like we have a kind of an uptick in activity. So we look like we're kind of picking up the pace in Brooklyn. But as you can see from the monthly chart, from the weekly chart, not much to write home about. The supply, as I said, ticked up for the week, but remains low in terms of the prior years. Again, same with the 30-day liquidity, quieter. That's it for Brooklyn. Any questions, please post those below. I'm going to move on now, give you my thoughts, my takeaways. So there's a lot going on. It's a very challenging market. So here are my thoughts and takeaways. There were 19 contracts signed in the luxury market. That's 3 more than the previous week. And luxury is our bellwether for the rest of the market, certainly in terms of a price action standpoint. So I'm going to get into what we've seen in terms of prices. Our data is delayed, as you know. So, we have some, but not all information about what's happening right now in terms of pricing and in terms of negotiability, but I'll get into that in a few minutes. Overall, good news on the luxury market. If we look at the Manhattan and the Brooklyn market as a whole, we are seeing a low liquidity environment market. We are also seeing a challenging listing market, especially for those sellers who have a property that is not a condo and is not brand new or in absolutely mint condition. This has been a very, very challenging market for those sellers, for those properties. If we look at the supply in Manhattan, we'll see that the overall supply is coming in, but it's a bit light. New listings kind of light. We're going to likely start to see this drop off a bit. It's a bit better in Manhattan than it is in Brooklyn. We definitely have seen a rise in the off-market properties, likely, very likely, given what has been happening over these last few months, very likely some seller fatigue. Some sellers who don't need to sell have decided this market is not the market for them. If we look at the demand and let's call it the liquidity, contract activity, we see that it is picked up a little bit, especially in Manhattan, up 25%, I think, for the week. But overall, historically light. It's encouraging to see this news. We saw it a bit in Brooklyn too, so to be fair. Sorry, Brooklyn. Saw it in Brooklyn too. But we want to be sure that, we're conservative in our view of this. We're going to continue to keep an eye on this. It's good news for sure. What it's likely signaling is that we have reached the end of this down period that we were experiencing in September, and we have turned a corner. We have bounced off the bottom, and we are heading back up. What does this all mean if you are a buyer or a seller? And if you are active in this market, you definitely need a lot of information so that you can be figuring out your strategy. Sellers, this is definitely a tough environment for you, a very tough selling environment. Again, for those co-ops and for those properties that need work, if you are determined to sell in this market and you don't want to hang around and you don't want to wait it out and you don't want to hang on to your property, you really want to sell in this market, you're going to need to do something to get the buyer's attention. Adjusting your asking price by a few percentage points will not do the trick. You're definitely going to need to do something to get their attention. So not less than 5%, more likely 10%, 7%, somewhere in there. That is going to be meaningful enough to attract the buyers, to get them to pay attention to your property. If you've been sitting on the market and the buyers are not coming, or they're coming and they're not making offers, or they're giving you feedback that would suggest that they see a disconnect between your asking price and their perception of its value in the current market, and you really want to sell, then you need to make an adjustment to your price. Make the most of this market. Historically, we should see good activity until around Thanksgiving. If we're lucky, we'll go longer, but don't count on it. So if you want to get something done, make your move now. Sellers, make your adjustments and make sure you're making the most of this market. Buyers, I've been talking to you about preparing for a buy signal. Last week, I told you it seemed that your buy signal was here. I think now you can see that the data is really supporting that we have bounced off the bottom and we're seeing more engagement. So if you want to be a buyer in this market and you were waiting for the bottom to hit, it has arrived. So don't wait too long to make your move. If you want to take advantage of this market, now is the time. But from a price action standpoint, what we saw for July data in terms of negotiability was about 5%. Brooklyn about 3.5%. We know that It's likely to be higher than that. This is median negotiability. Does that mean that, deals are being made with more negotiability or less negotiability? Absolutely. This is just the median. We know that July was stronger than August and September being particularly high negotiability. So where would we be right around now? Very likely we would have somewhat higher negotiability. If you want to try to leverage that and you're a buyer, what I would say is if you wait too much longer, you may not be able to get that same negotiability. So buyers, don't waste time. Now is the time to act. If you want to buy something, if you see something that you like, make your move. Okay, that's it. Any questions, please post them below. You can always reach out to me at Sotheby's. There's a lot of information that I have that I would be happy to share with you. You just have to ask me. As always, I would like to thank Urban Digs and the Olshan Market Report. The work that they do helps me to help you to make great decisions. I'll be back next week with the very latest news about what's happening in the New York City real estate market. In the meantime, take care.